The final shape had an alternate ending, and it's much different than the one we received. Concept art has also been released that reveals some awesome facts about the Pale Heart, the enemies within, and the design of the Witness. Let's first start with this alternate ending of sorts that seemed to be a thing at one point. The source of this information, the article from the Game Post, is linked below. Here's what part of it says. In addition to the artwork, Bungie also released footage of the final shape, showcasing visual effects and animations from the Destiny 2 development team. Among the shared videos is a video titled Ghost Shipping Cut from Jacob Saunderson, VFX artist at Bungie. According to the video description that was on YouTube, it looked like this version of the cinematic was part of the original ending for the expansion before it was delayed, which contrasts significantly with the final product. The description said, the shipping pass of a version of the 880 cinematic from before the final shape delay. On Jacob's ArtStation, you can see different works in progress of cutscenes still available, but they took that specific one down. We see 880 Cade shipping and 880 Cade functional. In that cinematic though, the ending was much different. The current one we know is this: Ghost dies taking out the Witness, and Cade sacrifices himself and his light to bring back your ghost. In the previous ending or work in progress one before, your Guardian would simply use prismatic, powers of light and dark, to bring back your ghost. Cade's death was never a thing from what we can gather. We don't know if the Guardian still tried to beg the Traveler to revive Ghost at the start of the cutscene or what happened before, but the moment of revive here was posted. Darkness travels down the arm, which reminded me of Eris's stasis back in the day, and as light meets it, prismatic powers would have saved the day. Now, I'd like to point out I don't have all the facts, but I'm not sure if it was 100% the ending before the delay happened like the article says and the description. Maybe it was just a work in progress, something they had at some point in development, but on the other hand, it did look like it was basically finished. So this may have been the ending they had before the delay. Delay happened, they decided to change things up and go with Cade sacrificing himself. Now, the Ghost's prismatic ending might have made sense. I mean, we got prismatic early and both light and dark are important throughout the final shape, but the ending we got was 100 times better in my opinion. Sure, we loved Cade, most of us, but throughout the campaign, it foreshadowed the afterlife type realm after death and using light to return there. His death, although sad, made it more emotional and feel worth it in the end. For us, defeating the Witness and getting our ghost back. And for Cade to have a chance, thanks to that wish from Crow, to right some past wrongs, make things right with characters like Crow and the Vanguard, and return to the light with Sundance. Let's now move on to some epic concept art. The Game Post also had another article that shows off beautiful concept art from Bungie's employees, and we're going to take a look at the most interesting ones. The links to all the artists can be found in the description. First up, we have some unused key art from Kai Zhou. Throughout the years, different expansions like Witch Queen and the Lightfall have had some pretty epic key art. We've also seen instances like this where they're unused but still look pretty amazing. We see Zavala with the sort of darkness witness symbol in the middle alongside the final shape logo. Now, these all do kind of reflect the key art we did get, all the characters part of the expansion together along with the Witness. Some of these concepts are similar to that, like this one. Characters like Ikora, Cade, Crow, and your Guardian along with Ghost and Witness. Some of these also have some interesting design choices and imagery. You have circles very reminiscent of the Traveler, and then spliced characters and objects like the Ghost. We've seen that in actual cinematics, so maybe that's what it represents in this concept. Kai also has some epic concepts of the monolith in the distance with the giant cube-like platforms, and then the cradle area where we find Ikora. Next we move on to artist Jacob Gonzalez, who has some interesting Dread concepts. Here's the first one, a cover art of sorts, and it looks beautiful. This barren, darkness, desert-like landscape with the Husk and Grim flying in to attack. Jacob's concepts also depict that witness symbol or staff logo on the Dread enemies. I'm not sure if the final ones in-game have this, I haven't really looked at them too much, but the concepts do. And some of the concepts look way larger than the Guardian. Imagine seeing this flying bat-like Grim that's 3 or 4 times the size of your character. Here is Jacob's shot of the Pale Heart. Most of these are kind of the same. You got the floating cubes and then the monolith in the distance. I can't tell if these are pyramid ships up in the sky or sort of fractured glass-like imagery. And lastly, we have concept art for Crow and his new wardrobe, the cloak and his new haircut thanks to Cayde. Next up, we have some art from William Kalkani's Ellis. Their concepts depict the Pale Heart along with some raid imagery. One of the coolest parts about the Pale Heart, in my opinion, is the many different environments that can be found within. You have the overarching themes of light and dark areas, but within those you can put whatever you want that's related to them, given the traveler can shape these memories. You can have the tower and giant ghosts near the start, statues of different characters. You can have calcified horse creatures, cut up humanoids and warbeast statues, things of that nature. So I imagine it must have been pretty fun to come up with some of these concepts, just go crazy with whatever you can think of. Taking what Destiny fans are familiar with after 10 plus years of the franchise, bringing some of that back but also making it feel new. These raid concepts look pretty crazy. Now it's hard for me to describe what exactly is going on in this image, but just feast your eyes upon it. We get a look at some red statues, which may be like the teleporter type area in the raid. Some other temple-like environments with some statues holding up some of the columns, and then close-up looks at that monolith itself. Next up, we come to one of my favorites, Tobias Kwan. Tobias's art always goes super in-depth with some descriptions, sometimes lore-wise. In the past, we had some text on these concepts about the different eyes of characters like Nezarec. There's many different concepts to dive through here, and we get some more awesome information. The first one is some armor exploration of light and dark fusing. We saw this first image on the far right in one of the trailers, but some of these Guardians look very unique. How about some crazy designs of the Witness's monolith? This one says Witness Megaboss. Serpentine body wrapped around the world and covers the sky. Wings made of stroboscopic limbs, looping animated scrolling pattern to imply motion without going too crazy. Some of these are pretty freaky looking. Imagine seeing this. Instead of the Witness, up in the air like we currently have, it's hunched over with many different arms like some type of four-legged creature. To me, it looks like some of these concepts depict the Witness itself as this monolith, which would have been pretty scary, especially from a distance as you get closer. The monolith we received is pretty huge, as we can see from the raid, and the concepts show the same thing. That little yellow speck is a Guardian. Pale Heart concepts also go more in depth, a day-night cycle as seen here. It says giant index slices with residual effects of the Witness's portal. And below that, imagine traveling through a sea of ghosts. I remember one of the trailers or the Vidocs, they showed a giant ghost that was part of some concepts, so it looks like it returns in this image. The Witness in his gigantic form is pretty imposing. I believe Callus might have seen this himself at one point in that Lightfall cutscene. but we get to see it in the Excision mission, and here's a look at the design for that Megaboss. I'm not sure if it's like this in the mission in the game, but parts of the concepts depict the architecture as part of the Witness itself, maybe sort of like its monolith. Here it says the ring of pillars surrounding the boss arena is uprooted and lifted up as part of the Witness's death performance, revealing the architecture as a physical extension of its body. And lastly, we come to another artist, Gabo Garza. Their art is also beautiful and reminds me of some comic book-like aesthetics. Here are some storyboards for the expansion overall. We see themes of Ghost possibly sacrificing itself, and what looks like the Guardian getting pushed through a glass surface by the Witness. A confrontation directly with the Witness like this would have been pretty cool. Here are some storyboards for some of the environments. This is the moment we cross the threshold at the beginning of the campaign. Looks pretty similar, and it's interesting to see how the artists, make these depictions and how it actually comes to life in-game after the 3D artists get hold, the effects artists, and all of that. Just after that, the moment the Guardian crosses over into the Pale Heart and sees the tower in the distance. Many of these focus on the main part of the campaign, Guardians and our allies taking on the Witness. This one right here happens to be one of my favorites. The Witness's face turns red as it's filled with rage and its eye begins to look corrupted or broken. The Vanguard members glancing up ready for their next move. And then we get a look at some of the damage phases as the Guardians stand on the platform and do damage to the Witness. Here's some more overall general art from Garza. Some different Husk variety early on concepts which look pretty cool, and some high detail Pale Heart explorations. Anyway Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. I always enjoy looking at the art. We did this for Lightfall last year, and it gives you a better sense of the story and inspiration behind the expansion. What was going on during development? What kind of storyboards were they making? What direction were they taking the story? And did it turn out the same or different like we saw with that cinematic scene? As I mentioned, the links to all the articles and artists are in the description, and I thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see some more Destiny news, lore, and mysteries like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you all in the next video.